Welcome to a web series on education and the family, brought to you by Creo Early Learning Partners. If you can, please donate to our fundraising efforts by clicking the link on this post. Your contribution will aid teachers and school staff adversely affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. In this episode entitled Harmony at Home, Tips for Peaceful Parenting, we are joined by peace education advocate, award-winning children's book author, and Executive Director of the Creative Learning Paths School, teacher Kristine Canon.
So I'm sure that there are those watching who want to apply peaceful parenting, but shifting their parenting approach would be a big transition. So if you were in their shoes, how would you start and what would you do first?
Like I said, no, I really cannot claim to be the epitome of a peaceful parent. Ask my children. Okay, but in terms of shifting, when I discovered peaceful parenting in 2010, my children are now teenagers, and they keep telling me, "Mom, it's so unfair. How come Isaac, or my youngest is 7 now, how come Isaac gets to do this? Or why weren't you like that with us?" No, they will ask me. So when I shifted, the first step was not to focus on disciplining, because parenting is not only about being able to discipline your children. In fact, the first step was all about healing. Healing for me as a person and as a parent. It was truly an inward journey of myself as a person, as a human being first. We all have childhood experiences that shape the way we behave as adults, and I had to go through a process of forgiving the way I was raised, forgiving past hurts, forgiving present hurts, and perhaps future pain that I will cause or will be done on me. So I reflected on what are my stress points in parenting. And Dr. Laura Markham calls this exercise examining your own scars. Whatever misbehaviors of our children that triggers us are our scars that are actually rooted in past experiences of guilt and shame. So in treading on the path to peaceful parenting, it is important that as a grown adult, we are ready to face and accept our past and be healed of our scars. So I feel like until now I am still transforming and trying to make myself better. So that's why I say it's a never-ending journey, no? But the most important thing is not to give up. So when we shift our role or our perspectives about parenting, I think we need to be solid about creating that change first within ourselves before we expect that change from our children.
What is your opinion in setting or on setting limits and consequences?
All right. I'm not saying that peaceful parenting is, ang happy-happy nyo lang, everything, you just smile all the time. No, you don't. That's not realistic, no? And as parents, it is our primary duty to set limits and establish boundaries or consequences with our children. So peaceful parenting is not about letting children do as they please. No. Rather, it is about effectively and lovingly communicating those boundaries that are your expectations. So I do this in a democratic manner. I discuss with my child the effects of his actions or misbehaviors to the entire family system, because no person is an island, right? So whatever you do affects someone directly or indirectly, and that is what I want them to understand. And then we think of solutions to avoid that effect or that consequence. So sometimes the child has already committed the wrongdoing, then we should be ready with a logical consequence. If the child does not honor the agreement, no? Kasi it's a democratic process. You agreed on it. Then that's your signal that he needs more time, that he's not ready. And time we should give. So I tell my 7-year-old, I'll wait until you're ready to face the consequence so we can move forward. And then I'm firm with that. So it's really a matter of being consistent, being firm, and being kind at all at the same time. So when you're feeling high blood ka pa, you cannot be kind. You cannot be kind kapag high blood ka pa, no? When at the heat of the moment, you cannot. So it allows you also as a parent to set yourself back first, step back first, and assess what is going on in me as a person, what is happening to me when the child breaks the agreement or does not honor the agreement. How is it making you feel, so that you can react or respond lovingly after.
Teacher Tim, you mentioned earlier that one of the characteristics of peaceful parenting is to be able to effectively process behavior. No? So in this time of pandemic, the pandemic has actually triggered emotional distress for many people, young and old. If a parent had a child who was exhibiting signs of stress or depression, example, fear of separation, aggressiveness, sleep problems, as a peaceful parent, how would you address it?
Wow, it's really true that in children, signs of stress will come out in different ways. Since they cannot express it verbally, it may be shown in a significant change in behavior, like what you said, no, eating or sleep problems. What we can do as parents is to firstly acknowledge this emotion, because there's no right or wrong emotion. Feelings are neither right nor wrong. So we put a label on it, no? When someone is grumpy, it's usually a sign that someone is in distress and needs help. And I always tell that to my children. And so he knows when I'm stressed. He knows because he witnesses it, no? So that is exactly what our children need, help. Okay? They need help. They need our assurance that things will be okay. But if we jump the gun and reprimand them for misbehaving, they will not learn to trust us with their emotions. So find the time to explore the emotion with them. It may be through reading a storybook about it or playing with them without any distractions. You're not on your phone while you're playing with them, or you're not talking to someone while you're playing with them. Talagang full attention on children. And you know what? It takes us as little as 20 minutes in a day to to give them quality time, na focused attention on our children. It may also be these storybooks, and playing with our children. These activities are therapeutic to them. So it is already a huge help, no, in easing the emotional distress, and perhaps to us as well. We need it also, and it restores the balance of emotions in our children, because their love tanks are refilled. So if the behavior still persists for more than 3 weeks to a month, then maybe consulting a child psychologist will also be helpful.
Yeah. And you know that Kat and I are fans of your storybooks, and you mentioned how play and stories can really be a form of therapy for kids. And you also mentioned earlier about Dr. Laura Markham, who is a clinical psychologist who writes and who talks about the idea of children benefiting from the use of words and stories so that they'd be able to understand emotions. Now, when trying to connect, how can a parent be more of a storyteller than a lecturer, which we usually have the tendency to do, even to my students or even to others?
You know what, Sam? I think we all have a tendency to lecture when we are caught off guard at the heat of the moment. So it's forgivable. Forgive yourself for that. Because now that you know that there's a better way, then you try it, right? So practicing mindful parenting is really about pausing before responding. It is short of saying, shut up to myself, no? Shut up self before you say something damaging that you will later on regret. The best stories we tell when we are both in the mood to hear one. 'Di ba? Pagka kalmado, when things are calm, when things are happy, no? That's when you are so receptive to learning and to listening. So capture those moments to tell stories about how you were as a child, who also went through the same thing, or parents can use actual storybooks to bring the point of the lesson across without actually telling them, kaya ikaw ha, dapat ganyan, ganyan, di ba? So mealtime, bedtime, playtime, these are all good times to share stories. We don't tell stories when the child is in a tantrum. Then that becomes a lecture, no? And the child is not receptive at that time. So I like telling stories about my own childhood with my children, how my mom reacted to me when I did this and that and so on, no? And until now, I tell them about my work. I tell them about my day, how my day went. Of course, not to filter, but I wor- I use what is developmentally appropriate to language, no? In terms of language, I use what is developmentally appropriate to my children, so that they will understand what I am sharing with them. This opens up barriers and communicates to the child that you can trust that we will listen without judgment. I think that's foremost what is important in storytelling, no? That this is your safe space. You can trust me with your emotions. You can tell me anything, and I will not judge you. That's what children need. Not just to hear verbally from you, but to feel when they are storytelling with us.
I think, Teacher Tin, it's very affirming and consoling in a sense that we do not need to create another story, to just to connect with our kids, and we just need to just look at our life and try to share what's developmentally appropriate at the moment as well. So thank you very much, Teacher Tin. It has been a very wonderful opportunity to hear your words about peaceful parenting.
Yes, thank you so much, Teacher Tin. I'll really use the story time or the storytelling so that I can share with my child what I want to communicate.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to advocate, no, for peaceful parenting and to help other parents and to reassure everyone that, peaceful parenting is not a lofty idea or a far off idea. If I can do it, so can you.
Peaceful parenting will be a challenge. After all, we are only human. No one is perfect. The secret is simply having compassion for yourself, just as you would have compassion for others. You may commit mistakes. Some days will be a huge struggle. But have hope. Things will get better. Believe that you will see and feel less drama and more love. Thank you for joining us. And remember, though we are physically distancing, let's remain socially connected.